How many days do you have where you think, what the hell am I doing this for? When it is wet and miserable, or you just feel uninspired. And somehow, first you just put your shoes on, make sure your running clothes are there, and you end up actually outside. And sometimes that's the biggest battle, isn't it? Just getting to the outside. So it's actually drizzling reasonably heavily today, but it's actually cooler, which for Australian summer is actually quite nice to be a little cooler. So let's get this run ticked off. Okay, let's go. With the first cycle, shoes already wet. Seriously thinking, what the hell are my life choices? But I'm actually feeling a little better that I started to do it. Mightn't actually go very well, but no one knows an outcome of anything before you start, do they? How often is the thought of doing something actually worse than the actual doing of it? When you're trying to get fitter, trying to get healthier, either deny yourself, some of the sweet things in life, or some of your food indulgences, whatever they are, or conversely, making yourself accountable for running. All too often, the thought of the run or the thought of the exercise is often worse than the actual doing of it. Because once you're there, you might as well get it done with and get it ticked off, yeah? So often the block is before you start, not once you get going. So if you can get yourself to start, then the timer went off. If you can get yourself to start, if you have to pull up at some point, that's okay. But allowing yourself to be there, getting past all those thoughts of will I, won't I, too hot, too cold, too wet, too rainy, too hot. Yeah. Be flexible. Hopefully you can be adjustable in the time you can go in. Like if you only have a small window, then that makes it a little harder, but if you have a bigger window, make sure, just because the first option couldn't be possible, or wasn't ideally possible, don't ruin all the other options around it. Alright, let's go again. See you on the flip side. So that mind chatter that holds us back from so many things, the things that we want to achieve, or procrastinating, putting roadblocks in, it's not a sign of weakness. Like, we sometimes go to that default setting that our mind chatter is a weakness. It's actually the thing that tells us that we're human, that our brain ruminates and goes over different scenarios and thinks about different things and what are the negative consequences and keep us safe. So all that mind chatter about why we shouldn't do something doesn't mean that has to be the loudest voice in your mind. Like, we can just appreciate that's what it's doing rather than feeling beholden to it. So when you're getting into a bit of fitness, You know, that mind chatter can get very loud about lots of different things. For me, it was, you know, will I break myself? Recovering from a lot of injuries, getting to a place that was basically serviceable, to, you know, what if I ruin this? What if I am the one that breaks myself this time, rather than actually an accident that has happened upon me? So that mind chatter was very loud, and I had to make myself realize that all those niggles and twinges and twitches and soreness points that came up from exercising were just from the exercising, not from something I was permanently damaging myself. But I had to put that in perspective. So having mind chatter doesn't make you weak. Isn't a sign of weakness. It's just a sign that your intelligent brain is actually going through scenarios to keep you safe. But then you remind yourself you're actually an intelligent human being that doesn't have to let that mind chatter be the loudest voice. So seeing what is possible rather than what is going to be denied for your future. Okay, off I go again. So take your mind off completing the task once you get started, because if you're feeling lethargic and overwhelmed or sore and apprehensive, you will naturally find it really difficult to get all the way through, because once again that mind chatter will remind you of all the reasons why and all the things that you can't achieve and shouldn't be doing and it's not possible to. And right now it's running a bit heavier, but what I found today's run is my mind before I went out was absolutely sure that every step I took was going to be, you know, in deep puddles over my ankles, and I'd be just sloshing around the whole time. Whereas so far, my feet, while they're getting a little wet now that it's actually raining again, have actually remained pretty dry. And at the end of the day, if they did get a bit wet, I can put them somewhere to dry. So, once again, just do the next section. So for me today, it's 7 circuits of 4-1. So my minute is well and truly up again now, because I've talked too long, but that gave me a bit longer to recover. So off I go again for another 4. I'll see you on the next bit. Halfway. Thank goodness. I don't know about you, but I always find when you get to that halfway mark in any exercise you're doing, or 3/4 mark, it's always a nice little summit to have gotten to. Even if the second half is a bit tough, getting to that halfway mark is quite relieving in a way. Alright, I don't want to overtalk this time because I'm going to blow out my minute. So, about to get back going into it. See you on the next one. So that's the moral of this story for me. Often for me, thinking about it is worse than the doing. I've sometimes got to be really careful. I say because of injuries, I've got to be careful of my intensity that I bring to a session. But just the session itself, thinking about it is often, I'd say 90%, 80-90% is worse than the actual doing. So I don't know if that helps you a little bit when you get into that mind chatter of delaying or putting off, not starting. Sometimes just putting your shoes on, stop questioning it, start. And if you go out and you go, no, this really isn't for me today, that's okay. At least you know next time you are prepared to start. And that often gets you in a better mindset. Where sometimes when you've stopped, and then you just never get going again. So let me know what happens in your mind chatter, what often stops you from actually sticking to a program or even starting a program. Recognizing, what is real concerns that we should have, and they should not be overlooked, as opposed to what sometimes our body perceives or our mind perceives as it's going to be a bridge too far. Anyway, hope these thoughts help you. Get out there, you can only do your best. I got through this session somehow, and quite wet for it in the end. But if I'd probably started 15 minutes earlier, I probably wouldn't have been very wet at all and only slightly wet feet. So sometimes you put off for that little bit longer. I should have stopped listening to my own mind chatter and got out there earlier. Subscribe, share, and leave me a comment. I hope it's helping you get into your fitness journey and get going, because definitely if I can do it and I can be kind enough to my body to keep doing it, then I hope it helps you. Take care. See you in the next one.